Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today is January 13, 2024, and today we're going to be talking about the brand new visa bulletin for February 2024 that just recently came out. Now, if you're not familiar with these videos, with this channel regarding the visa bulletin, regularly once the new one comes out on this channel, I do a comparison with the previous month so that you can see briefly what the movement was. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you a very quick way on how to read the visa bulletin if you're not familiar, if this is the very first time you're watching a visa bulletin video. But if you do want to know a little bit more in detail on how to read the visa bulletin, on how to understand the categories and all sorts, I do have the video on this channel that is called the easiest way to read the visa bulletin, so check it out. So without further ado, let's open the January. I do have the video on January already uploaded to this channel. But the February visa bulletin, I have not even seen it yet. So let's take a look and see what the movement was. So this is going to be for the January, and I'm going to be highlighting so that it's always clear which one we're talking about. And this one is going to be for the February. So to scroll down on the February and to kind of briefly give you an idea what the visa bulletin is, basically if you do have any kind of family immigration, family reunification process going on with USCIS, maybe you're already with the Department of State, with the NVC, depending on whichever stage you are in, right? You're waiting for the immigrant visa becoming available for your beneficiary who you are petitioning for. Whether you are a petitioner yourself or a beneficiary, you will be dealing with the visa bulletin. If you are in one of the 4 family preference categories, and as you can see, there are 4 of them, well, technically 5, but we'll talk briefly in this video about these categories. So there's F1, unmarried sons and daughters of US citizens over 21. There's a second family preference category with 2 subcategories, F2A and F2B, that is pertaining specifically to permanent residents and their family members. There's a F3 category, which is for married sons and daughters of US citizens, and the 4th family preference category for brothers and sisters of adult US citizens. All right. So if you are in immediate relative category, if you are a husband, wife of a US citizen, or if you're a parent of a US citizen, then you are not dealing with the visa bulletin at all. You don't need to worry about this one. It's pretty clear. But if you do have any questions along the way, just post them in the comments below, and I will take a look and I will try to answer it in a timely manner. Okay, after you are familiarized with the categories, you will see there are 2 graphs. There's a graph A, final action dates, and there's graph B, dates for filing. Now, what is the difference between the 2? Okay, so as I've mentioned, whenever it comes to family reunification, the process is basically broken down into several different big stages, big parts. The first one is with USCIS. So you get your I-130 application approved by USCIS. Once it is approved, it is transferred to the Department of State, where you have to become documentarily qualified. So if you want to see the full length of how long you will be waiting, the full length of the backlog, I'm doing the quotes because I will explain a little bit later. These are all rough estimates. And whenever it comes to the visa bulletin, it is very, very rough, and you will understand later in the video why. But if you are looking for the full length after you're already documentarily qualified, you're good, you're just waiting for the availability of the immigrant visa, we are looking at the graph A. Now, if your USCIS application has been approved, transferred to the Department of State, but your NVC portal is still closed and you cannot start your documentary qualification process just yet, and you want to know when you will be able to do that, when the NVC portal is going to open up, in that case, you are looking at the graph B, date for filing. Now, looking at both of these graphs, you see the categories. In both of them, the categories are all exactly the same. There's also chargeability areas, which is very simple. There's 4 countries that have their separate chargeability areas: China, India, Mexico, Philippines. So if you're from any of these countries, you will be looking at the corresponding column, all right? But if you're from any other country in the world, you're looking at all chargeability area. Okay, so clear with the chargeability area, clear with the categories, the dates. What are these dates? In both of the charts, these dates represent the thing called priority date. And the priority date is when your I-130 was received by USCIS. So the very first notice of receipt that you got from USCIS saying, hey guys, we received your I-130 application. This is it. This is your priority. So the date on that receipt, notice of receipt, is going to be your priority. You don't have to be super precise with it. Plus, you will know exactly your priority date once you have the access to the NVC portal. But now you understand briefly. Let's do the comparison. So we got the February, the very first one. I'm gonna scroll it down to right here, and I'm gonna open up January, and we're gonna scroll it down right here. I have not seen February yet. I have not compared it personally to myself. And if you have been subscribed to this channel, you already know I'm an immigrant myself. I do have an I-130 case that I'm waiting on. So to me, this is personal as well. This videos I don't just make to, for, I really don't care and just making the videos. No, to me, this is very important as well. So let's do the comparison. So we got January. Let's start with the graph A, F1. I'm gonna highlight this and we're gonna compare it to February. And we're gonna highlight this in February as well. And January, May, absolutely no difference. No changes for the F1 category. So everyone in F1 category, unfortunately, no changes in February. Let's move on to the F2A. I'm gonna highlight F2A here, and I'm gonna highlight F2A in February. So this right here is February. Now, January. Okay, looks like there was some kind of movement from November 19 to February 20. That is very, very good. November, February. Okay, so looks like it moved for everyone. For Mexico, it moved even more because Mexico was on October 2019 in January, and it is now in February 2020. Now, why is it a good movement? Because it's moving forward. When you see the movement forward, it's great news. If it's not moving, not very good news, but really not bad news either. Because the bad news is when it's moving backwards, when it is retrogressing. Because it means that the backlog is significantly accumulating. Because normally what you would want to expect in a movement, what would be considered a normal, more or less stable movement, is when you have 1 month each month. All right, so you check it in February, it's on February. You check it in March, it is on March. You check it in April, it is on April. It means that it's moving along as the same speed, right? Makes sense. If it stays the same or if it's retrogressing, going backwards, it means it's not a good movement and backlog is accumulating. Definitely not good news. So we have in 1 month from January to February, we have from November, so we got November, December, January, and February. We have approximately 3-4 months movement. In 1 month, 3-4 months movement, fantastic news. So for everyone in F2A, great news for you guys. Okay, let's move on to the next one, F2B now. And I'm gonna highlight F2B here, and I'm gonna highlight F2B in February. So this is January, October 15, October 15, October 15. For Mexico, it's October 2003. Mexico is a chargeability area that is big time behind, and Philippines is the second one that is big time behind. It's October 2011. So compared to February, looks like there is absolutely no movement at all, and in fact I see that there is absolutely no movement for anybody else in the chart A. So F3 no movement, F4 no movement, F2B no movement, F1 no movement on the chart A. So for February Visa Bulletin, only good news is for F2A. Kind of unfortunate. Personally, I'm really always looking at F4 because I have I-130 for my brother, and still no movement. Okay, well, let's move on to the graph B and take a look what's going on for the graph B. This is still January. I'm gonna scroll it down to right here, and I'm gonna scroll down to February, down to the same line, so it's easier to compare. There we go, approximately like that. So let's highlight in January for F1. Again, this is graph B, so it is for if you are not documentarily qualified yet, but your I-130 was already approved by USCIS and your case is now with the NVC, and you want to know when your NVC portal is going to open up, graph B, that is for you. So F1 in January, it is on September 17, September 17, September 17 for India. Mexico is April 2005 and Philippines is April 2015. So let's take a look at February now. And looks like no movement for F1 and looks like no movement for F2A. Looks like there is no movement whatsoever at all for the graph B, unfortunately. Okay, so this is really it. This is really it. So unfortunately, whenever it comes to graph B, for people who are waiting for their NVC portal opening up, no changes, no movement. Why is it happening? It's really hard. I know I get a lot of questions on this channel, and if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them. I've been pretty busy lately, and it's really hard to stay consistent with answering the questions because there's a lot of them. But generally speaking, whenever it comes to any delays, it is really the accumulation of the applications and inability of USCIS, both USCIS and the Department of State, to process these on time. There's more coming in than there are available immigrant visas, which is a limited number by US Congress. I do have a few videos on a little bit more in detail, so if you are interested, check them out. But no movement for the graph B for people waiting for documentary qualification, and whenever it comes to the graph A and the availability of the immigrant visa, only F2A, you guys can, definitely good news. But again, on the larger scale, F2A, you have to keep in mind that F2A is spouses and children of permanent residents. And that's the category that used to be current, which means that once you become documentarily qualified, your immigrant visa is already available, and you are just scheduled the interview and you go and you get the your immigrant visa. But now, as you can see, there's a 3-year delay, which we started seeing the accumulation of the backlog on the F2A category really ever since the pandemic. And it's been really getting worse ever since. But at least now we're seeing a little bit of catching up. Hopefully we will see some catching up on the rest of the categories. And honestly, at the very end, hopefully we will see Congress finally doing something about this number right here, because this is the limitation. 226,000 immigrant visas per year for all of the categories, for all of the countries. And that's the problem, because there's a lot more applications, and that's really what's causing all of this backlog accumulation. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and some of your concerns, some of your questions have been answered. If you still have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below, and I'll try to get them. Thank you very much for watching. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.